Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about the American Modernist period. First of all, what was the American Modernist period? It was an artistic and literary movement which began in 1914 and ended in 1939. It originally began in Europe but eventually reached the United States. For Americans, the 20th century started off with prosperity, but then World War I broke out and changed the way many people felt about humanity, which also had effects in all forms of art. This caused the beginning of a new age in American literature, in which writers tried to express modern life with their writings. That's why, during this period, literature reflected the people's needs, instability, fear, pessimism, uncertainties, hesitation, and lust. For example, poetry went from something that was beautiful, optimistic, and storytelling to something more intellectual, pessimistic, and profound. Poetry was no longer focused on nature, but on society instead. In general, literature was written in a pessimistic way and broke away from traditional styles. Also, during this period, there were other modernist period subclasses, the Ice Age, the Harlem Renaissance, and the Lost Generation. This period acted as a prequel to the Great Depression, which marked its end. Which were the main themes of this period? The main themes were three: confusion, isolation, and disillusionment, which reflect the mindset and feelings of American people during this period. T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock is a good representation of the theme confusion. Why? Because apart from being confusing to read, it shows a man struggling to make decisions and trying to figure out what kind of society he belongs in, just as many people did during this period. In the case of the theme isolation, Ernest Hemingway's In Another Country is a good example of it because it portrays the isolation felt by soldiers and common Americans. And in the case of disillusionment, which was the feeling many people felt when they realized World War I would have been quick and painless, The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald and The Yachting of Granny Weatherall by Catherine Ann Porter are good examples. The Great Gatsby displays disillusionment because the main character believes he can recreate his past with Daisy, another character in the story, and the jilting of Granny Weatherall displays the confusion and disillusionment that is felt while growing up and dying. Who were the key authors and what did they write? Some of the most important authors were Ezra Pound. Ezra Pound was a poet who studied literature and languages in college, and published a lot of successful books of poetry. Pound advanced a modern movement in English and American literature, which was the Imagist movement, in which the poet lets an image itself be the focus of the poem, with no extra words. His prophecies broadcast in Italy during World War II led to his arrest and confinement until 1958. Some of his works were A Few Downs and In a Station of the Metro. T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot was a groundbreaking 20th century poet who is known widely for his work The Wasteland, which is a poem he wrote while recovering from exhaustion, and is a dense and allusion-heavy poem which redefined the genre and became one of the most popular poems in literary history. For his lifetime of poetic innovation, Eliot won the Order of Merit and the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1948, and he spent most of his life in Europe, dying in London, England in 1965. Another one of his works is The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, which was his first poetic masterpiece. F. Scott Fitzgerald. F. Scott Fitzgerald was a short story writer and novelist considered one of the most important authors in the history of American literature, mainly because of the great success of his third book, The Great Gatsby, which has become required reading for almost every American high school student. This book is very significant because its purpose is to tell the reader that the American dream can be achieved by anyone. Fitzgerald died of a heart attack at the age of 44 without finishing his last novel. Another one of his works is The Side of Paradise, which was his third novel and the one which made him famous. In my opinion, during this period, writers used their works to vent all those hidden feelings caused by World War I, which caused the main themes to be so negative. Also, this period must have been very difficult to live in, and perhaps its reflection in the works is what made many of them so popular. Here are my references. and thanks for watching.